Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 74, featuring Kush Nubia. Happy to reconnect with Kush. How you doing, Kush?
I'm good, David. Thanks for having me again.
Awesome. Thank you for agreeing to join the show. I'm really excited to continue to talk a little bit about philanthropy and Web3 and the impact that this technology, NFTs on the blockchain, is already making in the world, but can continue to make as we look into the future of what's possible. And your project with the Secure Mount Ward Creative Hearts project that's really focused on helping school children in Jamaica and specifically at the Mount Ward school is really inspiring and impressive. So Kush and I were also just recently at the Blockchain Futurist Conference in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. As always, it's always kind of inspiring to connect with other like-minded Web3 builders and creators in the space and see, what are the newest innovations that are going on. And really, it was interesting to see, the reaction of other people to this topic of philanthropy, which, shout out to Kush because he was out there making sure it was front of mind for people and really bringing up this topic with the different, booths that are around there. And so I thought it would be a great idea to kind of talk about philanthropy more broadly today and how Web3 can help push philanthropy and really make real world social impacts as we continue to evolve and embrace the technology. So we'll definitely be diving into that a little bit, but we also want to look at the Blockchain Futurist Conference and a lot of the connections we made there, what was good and maybe what could have been done better. So looking at that piece of it, one thing I just wanted to say off the front so I don't forget to say it is that I think that all of these Web3 events that happen, right, these IRL events, these conferences, they should all be considering how they can make a social impact, right? Kush is a big part of why I'm thinking of this, but really the conversation kept popping up. And every time that, we brought up philanthropy with any one of these booths, they were always very interested because they saw that, when you do something that actually has social impact, even though the people that you might be helping have no idea what blockchain is or what NFTs are, they feel the impact, and so like what could be more, rewarding and also more beneficial really for the technology than making real world impacts like that, right? So I think that that's one piece that I've seen kind of lacking from all of these conferences that I've been to now. I've been to, a handful of them, but other than that, it was amazing. There was a lot of great conversations around the technology, and there were definitely a focus on how society more broadly is going to benefit from the adoption of blockchain and NFTs. But I think, we could have a whole corner of the conference devoted to cultural impact or social impact, right? And so I'm hoping that as things continue to evolve, we can actually start looking at the social impacts of blockchain and Web3 as not just kind of ancillary or like, a sidebar conversation, but actually core to what Web3 and NFTs and blockchains all about. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get into a little bit today. We're also going to be sharing our thoughts on the Blockchain Futurist Conference for any who weren't there. Maybe I have one or two clips I'm going to try to show on here as well of the NFT gallery that they had there, which was kind of cool. And yeah, it was just a really welcoming space. It's Canada, it's a lot of friendly people, but it was also very global. There were a lot of people there from all over the world, builders and creators from different blockchains, especially shout out to the Cosmos blockchain. They had a lot of builders there, and I definitely learned a lot about what's happening in the Cosmos space. So, looking at that a little bit more closer. Shiba Inu also had a lot of big footprint there and had a major announcement. So we'll talk a little bit about what's happening in the Shiba world, which I was kind of surprised by, happily surprised. But so that was interesting too. So with that, really, I'm looking forward to really diving into the Secure Mount Ward project, Kush. So maybe before we dive into a lot of the other topics around philanthropy in the space, what's new with Secure Mount Ward? What's new with you, and how are things going, Kush? And welcome back. Thanks for reconnecting with us here.
Yeah, well, we are moving the project along. It is now under, I think when we last met, we were talking about getting together with Digicel and getting under the foundation. So we are now been approved under that. We're under review, and
Nice.
it looks like we're going to be
Congratulations.
Cool. Thank you. Looks like we're going to be approved for about 600,000 US, sorry, Jamaican dollars, which translates about to about $4,000.
All right.
But more importantly, that's going to help us with getting the equipment that we were talking about earlier with the tablets. It's actually going to get us more than what we actually initially wanted or requested, and it's going to help us with the data as well. And so that's a big win for us to move the project forward. We're still seeing that moving the NFTs are a bit slow, moving through the community. So one of the things that we are looking at is how to re-strategize that or how to pivot. And I think we were asking the community at a time when we're entering the bear market, which is a bit of a challenge for everyone. So with the Futurist Conference, we were able to take a pivot to that and say, like, why don't we start talking to the corporations and seeing what the corporations are doing? Since we got this win with Digicel, saying, okay, let's move it a bit forward and start talking to these other booths. And with that, we're just seeing how there is a gap there. And I think that was also a win, and being fruitful, be able to build some relationships and be able to say that this is something that we're doing and this is something that you'd be interested in taking part in. So I have a lot of work to do with doing some following up, a lot of contacts. It was a great conference. And other than that, with the project, with all these pieces coming together, we are seeing that there is community there, but it's not really. I should step back. One thing I'm seeing in the conference is that there's an NFT community and there's a corporate community. In the NFT community, there is philanthropy happening there, and it's just getting plugged into the right community. So fortunately, I was able to get plugged into another community of NFT creators and builders, building on the Polygon network. And there's a lot of great things going on there in philanthropy. So if anyone's having any projects that are philanthropy based, I would definitely look to the Polygon community. I mean, I've had a lot of growth just over the last day being plugged into them after doing some following of the conference.
Nice.
The Twitter accounts gone from like 10 people to almost 400 people in a day. So I mean, it's really exciting. It's very exciting.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to building over there and seeing what can happen.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be, kind of hanging out with you here and there at the conference, and seeing some of these booths when you would talk about philanthropy, and they'd be like, and then you actually tell them exactly what your project is, selling these NFT keys that the funds go back to Jamaica for a specific school that you're building up, and the fact that you're not just exclusively doing like just NFTs to raise money, right? Like you're really looking for fundraising and donations from any angle to help support this school, but the NFTs are kind of an interesting piece of it, and you've attached some utility to the NFT so that it's more than just making a donation. You actually get some kind of educational benefits on the back end. So on that point, about the fact that you did really, make it an initiative that's fundraising specifically for Mount Ward School, and you are using kind of a variety of avenues to fundraise, right? Not just NFTs. How has that impacted the overall project? Do you think that basically you had to make it much more than just an NFT project? And on balance, is it been a good thing to incorporate NFTs, despite, like you said, it's been a bear market, it's been a little bit difficult to sell them, but on the flip side, maybe from an innovation angle and from just showing what's possible, I think you've got a lot of positive feedback, right? So how has that been, just kind of navigating that, kind of the fact that you do have all these different avenues and the NFTs are just one piece of it?
Yeah, so just to comment on the different avenues, we gave 3 ways for the community to donate. One was the NFT, like you mentioned. The other was we used giveit.io, so you could donate with crypto directly, and we also used GoFundMe, so you could use fiat. The reason why we did that is because this wasn't our first initiative, being the Mount Ward alumni. It's been around for a number of years, and the community that they have there is a bit older and not aware of the crypto. So there is some onboarding that had to happen there. And that level of comfort with the FUD that's kind of in the atmosphere, we just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any blockers for people who wanted to contribute. So we opened up the GoFundMe as well. And I mean, we've had definitely some good donations on that end of things, not so much on the direct crypto. And we've had some holders of the key as well. And we're hoping to, well, not hoping, we are looking to issue the utility starting next month. However, like I was saying, we're going to go back to those holders and start discussing the possibility of us migrating and what that's going to look like, migrating chain.
Yeah, so on that point, looking at that new avenue you talked about with the Polygon community and the fact that, they like to support, social impact or philanthropy that's happening on Polygon, right? And I know I've heard, I think Near Protocol is another one that I've seen has been, pretty ears to the ground, like likes to fund projects that are on their blockchain. But I mean, in the end, that's still helping their network too, right? So you can kind of see why, and it's always good PR. Making a real difference is always good for any blockchain network, probably. So looking at that, when you say you're going to migrate, right? So you've got these keys on Ethereum. You sold a handful or a good amount of them so far, and you've got quite a bit more to sell as well. Everybody can go to the website. That's securemountward.com, securemtward.com to check it out and get a link to the Manifold site and mint your key there. So why, I'm curious, looking at that as a migrate option, or do you actually like just create new keys that have, or new assets that are on Polygon that are slightly different than the keys, or is your plan to basically just kind of merge the keys over to Polygon and then reach out to the Polygon community and hope that you'll get more buy-in and a little bit more energy on the NFT side?
Well, the thing about it is I want to future-proof the project. That's the whole reason why we wanted to integrate with the Web3 technology in the first place. And then there is just the community of the difference of people who are on these different blockchains. I think there's more of a caring heart type of mindset on those blockchains, being Polygon, I mean. And so with they are working with, I believe, is Magic Eden and Polygon, and plugging into them, they kind of give you a roadmap on how to do a migration properly. So I'll be getting a lot of assistance from them to do that properly and look at how to develop utilities around that. I'm thinking perhaps an additional utility for early holders, looking at integrating a whitelist kind of approach as well, moving over to Polygon, and then doing airdrops to people who are prior holders. So just looking to talk with some of the people in the Polygon community and develop a project strategy for the pivot.
Right.
And then open up that transparency to the community as well.
That's cool. I can see the value in that for sure. And like you say, longevity. And I guess once you do have the Polygon version live, then you've removed the gas fees, right? Obviously. And so you've removed a little bit more friction. People like me who have been buying NFTs for a long time, used to paying 5, 10, 15, even more amount of money in gas fees for every NFT that I mint. It's not a big deal. But for others, it's like, oh, I thought I was just paying $30 and now there's this additional $15. Like, what is this? Why am I paying this, right? So I can see that for sure. Okay. So
I've had some conversation with them already on like the approach and plugging in to the necessary kind of groups that are kind of running projects, and then being able to look at them and see like, okay, what are some of the examples they have for utility around the education? Because we had right now kind of a 101 level education, but I think people who are savvy in Web3 will want to have something a little bit more advanced. So looking at where we might be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and speak to the utility and the kind of education side of what you get when you purchase the NFT, right? So, of course, the biggest reason for you to purchase the NFT is to support the Jamaican school, to support Mount Ward, right? But aside from that, what are those utilities you were mentioning and the educational benefits you get from the NFT avenue?
Right. So one of the things that we wanted to do is develop financial literacy in the Web3 space. So we've gotten some prominent videos from key people in the industry to kind of talk about entry-level things into what are the assets, what are the trends and dividends, and just different things around the Web3 to kind of educate you in that area, to get you more familiar with how to maybe make trades or where to invest your money or how to invest your money and different things like that, different strategies on what's happening in the market on a macro level, so you can get a better understanding on how to kind of plan your future. And then we had some additional through our partner Texago to provide some additional training where they're hands-on training with configuring wallets, using some of the platforms. If you're an artist, they have an artist platform where you can use to leverage to get some more eyes on your work and that kind of thing. So and part of what I was doing as well is talking to people in the conference to add to that. So we met some great people. I think by the name of Crypto Babes, if I'm not mistaken, because I think there's Crypto Chicks and Crypto Babes.
Yeah, there's a lot of women groups representing there, the Crypto Chicks and the Crypto Babes. Shout out to both of them. Very impressive groups for sure.
Yeah, and connecting with some of them to actually flush out some more of the utility around the education and the workshop. So
Awesome.
These are all things that we're developing. We do have a set of utilities that are in play right now that we would, and those are around the financial literacy, which will be starting in September. We have showings. They'll be happening in spatial, so they'll be token gated. And I got to shout out Tiny from the Raw DAO, who's been doing a lot of our 3D building of the spaces and classrooms and that.
Awesome.
And yeah, the Raw DAO, I got to give them a shout out for helping prop up the project and giving a Discord where we could house and grow the community.
Amazing, man. I was just looking at the on the site here at securemountward.com and the NFT utility partners, and I realized there's the post-purchase registration. I didn't register yet. I got my key, but you got to register on here. So you're saying that these kind of classes are going to be starting up kind of next month, essentially. And I know the ones through Texaglow say they're going on for 6 months, and there'll be like 2 courses a month kind of thing, 2 workshops. And just looking at all things Web3, developer side, collector side, artist minting side, just really full kind of educational program, hey?
Yes, and of course, with getting plugged into this new community, I'm really excited at looking at what else can happen on the education side, because they have great speakers, they've got great developers, builders. Yeah, it's pretty awesome there. So looking forward to it.
Amazing. And shout out to Raw DAO. Yeah, that's amazing that you were plugged in there. I see a few other logos I know here. Storytime DAO, Dream Conduit. It's awesome. Love to see it. It's really, your project is quite impressive, man. And it's rooted in the community, most importantly. So looking at this broad umbrella of philanthropy, right, and looking at Web3 and thinking about the way, a lot of these kind of more corporate or really just people who have their heads down building their projects, are not necessarily thinking philanthropy or realizing, how much real world impact can be made from the blockchain. So like, how do you think Web3 can or should be adapting or evolving to be more impactful? Like, what would you like to see more of at a conference like Blockchain Futurist Conference, but really just in general in the Web3 space, to kind of help projects like yours maybe be a little bit more of a priority, if that's the right word? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I didn't see much of the corporation side with putting on any offerings to say we are here to kind of support philanthropy projects, or any applications to say apply to see if you fall within some of our philosophies or mandates. Like, for example, we fell under Digicel because they felt that we fell under technology in the STEM approach to the education of youth and everything of that nature. So that kind of thing, like where does that kind of fall into some of the ideologies of the corporations that are existing right now? And so I'd like to see a bit more of that, like have an opening, maybe we can apply. Talking to a lot of these companies, they didn't even have someone who they could even point me to say, oh, this is our area of our give back type of thing for the community. So maybe seeing a department that it is working on that. I think out of all the companies, say maybe I'm at 20, I'm at 1 that was in the non-profit space and was eager to work together on developing more education for utility. So, yeah.
No doubt. That's great. And overall, like when you look at the feedback that you did get, even if they hadn't really been thinking about philanthropy before, like, are you encouraged by the fact that, they're at least kind of wanting to take that angle kind of, and how do you think things will evolve, best case scenario?
So first, to answer the first part of the question, I got a lot of big eyes when I asked, like, what are you doing for philanthropy, or where do you give back? And it was like, right. And it's like, then the question was like, oh, well, I'm in the philanthropy space, this is what I'm doing, tell them about my project. Then that would kind of spur the interest, and I'd get some contacts and stuff. And so I think that in the future, I think people will make space for that because they see the value of giving back. They see the value of education. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be maybe putting some time aside to share some education, share some knowledge to grow things forward. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. A lot more of people offering their time to share knowledge and share experience. I think some more of that will be happening, or gives talks and that kind of thing.
And we need that, right? Because I think more importantly, it pushes back against a lot of the FUD, right? And I think fear, uncertainty, and doubt is natural, for people when it comes to things they don't understand, and they see all of the more shady side of NFTs or even crypto more broadly, and so they just don't want to go near it. And I think you spoke about this on our first interview, right? But I'd love to just hear a little bit more about maybe how it's gone since your initial launch, when it comes to kind of, you're on a board, right, for the Mount Ward Primary School, trying to raise funds, and a lot of the people on the board maybe didn't see the value in NFTs and using NFTs, right? So how has that kind of perception changed at all, or is it moving in the right direction, or do you think that, how do you feel about that conversation now?
Yeah, I think the perception has changed a bit. I think there's still for the broader community, I feel like there's still some education that needs to happen there. But as far as the community, I think they were always on board with the futurization or future-proofing the initiative. And then seeing, some of the items actually be purchased, I think was something, of course. Them not knowing what would happen and seeing some of them actually sell definitely is a win. And then I haven't had a chance to tell them about this new recent development with the Polygon, so I think that'll be another exciting moment. And then of course being accepted under STEM for Digicel, because we had the Web3 component, again was definitely something seen as a win there as well.
Amazing. And when you talk about future proofing, I understand where you're coming from, and maybe for our listeners, why do you think that, incorporating the NFT side of it, obviously you got the immutability, you've got kind of additional utilities, and you could have even more into the metaverse down the line, right? Like you said, I think you already incorporated it with your spatial.io space, right? So you actually have to hold the token in order to get into your class or into your documentary series on spatial.io. So that's some examples maybe of how it's future proofing. But when you're pitching it, to let's say non-Web3 natives, regular folks out there who want to, support this initiative, how did you kind of define this as future proofing? How did you frame that?
Well, I'm just in the way that the crypto technology is something that the advent of cryptos or cryptography has been here for a long time. And the use of cryptocurrencies is something that is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And just using the fact that the actual banks that they trust, are also now looking to do the switch to these digital currencies, seeing that there's actually countries out there that are actually making the switch to digital currencies. It's like, this is not going anywhere. This is going to be here. So let's futurize. Let's start teaching the youth about this to get them ahead of the curve, and bring that knowledge forward. So I think in that, and also in the way that we have students teaching students, just that ingraining of the knowledge, I think is also something that they see as a very valuable approach. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I love the art. I'd love to hear a little bit of how you made this knowledge key. So it's a really cool kind of 3D digital asset, nice shiny key, and maybe even a little bit of the philosophy behind the knowledge key, right? But yeah, I'd love to just hear a little bit of the artistic side of it, because it's got a really cool kind of unique vibe to it. So how did you build it, and what was kind of the thought process behind it?
Yeah, the thought process basically was, I wanted to have a 3D asset that you could use in your 3D spaces. So some people who have bought them have put them in their spatial space to kind of show them off, say that this is a project that I represent, and that kind of thing. So it's a kind of a token in that way. And then the design, I commissioned an artist that I worked with before to do the logo. And then once I got the logo, I converted that into a 3D logo. And I built a key around that and put all the pieces together using Nomad Sculpt. And I used 3D Builder and to do some of the coloring and smoothing. And that was pretty much the process. It did take some time to put everything together, of course, and make it kind of stand out. And there is kind of like a little, what we're going to have as a trivia, because if you really look at the key, you can see there's a few letters missing, but it kind of spells. The trivia question would have been, what would those letters missing spell, right? But that was and it's kind of a Jamaican slang, but It was quite fun to make. I mean, there was a lot of excitement around the key when I actually showed the piece to the committee and everything like that.
Nice.
And there seemed to be quite good feedback when showing the key to the community, like we were a part of here on Clubhouse. So yeah, I think going forward, I'd probably have another version because the idea was to have different keys
Right.
as the fundraising would continue, because as you know, we would have to do additional fundraising to keep the data going for those tablets that we get on the first run. So the idea was maybe to have an additional key for that.
No
but
doubt.
but what we're thinking now is just have the artwork from the students. I think that would be something that would be more tactile to the people who are donating, to have a piece of art from the actual students. And so
yeah.
that'll be the going forward. Yeah.
It's really interesting. It opens up opens up a whole bunch of new opportunities if you do that. But I like the key as like the foundational kind of collector token item, right? As kind of for your core supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And
then the key, the term is like knowledge is key, right? Everybody knows that kind of that slang, so that catchphrase. So that's basically what initiated the design of the key. Knowledge is key, and we're sharing the knowledge not only with the students, but through utility with the holders as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I can definitely see that connection. Yeah, looking into the future, I really am excited to see, season to season or semester to semester, I guess. How are you looking at kind of unfolding the next kind of iteration? Is it something where you're just building directly on it, or do you just relaunch it as like a whole new thing? Have you thought about that so far yet? Like looking into next school year things?
Yeah, well, that's some of the strategy that we're like. I want to go back to with some of the advisors if we get accepted under the Magic Eden, because they have a creator application for bringing projects onto that blockchain. I believe it's up to $1 million.
I will say Magic Eden has always given me kind of degen vibes, but if they're down for social impact, then that's real cool. You let me know, man. Let us all know. We'll definitely go check that out. I haven't seen much social impact over there. I'm seeing more of the PFP lane in the Magic Eden space, but that's cool. And I know they started on Solana, but I believe they now support a wide range of blockchains as well. So that's a really interesting one. So Polygon kind of has made a pretty good pitch to you, it sounds like. Have you looked at other blockchains as well, as far as like trying to be more blockchain agnostic or maybe multi-chain? Or are you really just trying to kind of find the community that resonates most, that's going to actually want to purchase, want to like see this succeed and, just run with it?
Yeah, I'm really looking for the community now. I think they say the strategy is to have the community first and then do the drop kind of after. So I just want to get plugged in, let them know who I am as a person, get into some of the Twitter spaces and connect. It's been pretty good so far. Haven't really done any shilling of a project or anything like that. It's just getting to know the community, right? And who they are as well. And to start talking and tapping some shoulders and talking about strategy, look at some of the projects that are existing there, see what I might be able to leverage as far as some ideas, as far as the utility and how it's done. And I'll kind of go from there. Of course, taking a step back and calling together back the team that I was working with that got me to this point.
No doubt.
Making sure they still have interest to want to move it forward into the Polygon and get all that buy-in again and everything like that, make a new plan. So there's a lot of work that will be happening to keep it moving and to keep the existing life of what's happening with the holders going right now as well too. So
yeah, and that's the whole thing too, right? And you were talking about potentially airdropping to those who already have the Ethereum key, if you launch it on Polygon. And that would, I think, make sense. But then maybe there's also, additional benefits that those early supporters, right? That was the real core, people who were like there for you from day one, from the jump. Yeah, awesome, man. Well, that's really fascinating. Is there anything else you want to speak to specifically on the Mount Ward project before I turn it over to the Blockchain Futurist Conference? I want to look back at that a little bit. It was quite the eventful week for sure. But yeah, looking at Polygon, I wish you a lot of luck on that front. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I do think there's a good kind of baked in community. But like you said, you kind of have to be almost introduced to like what's the best like angle to kind of reach this community, right? Like personally, I've seen more kind of engagement and excitement in the Ethereum space than the Polygon space, but again, for specific projects like this, where it's a fundraiser and you're raising funds for a specific purpose, it just makes sense to eliminate gas fees, right? It makes sense to go where other, fundraisers have been finding success. And I'm sure there are some that have done well on Polygon. And with that, I don't think you're that concerned about like future tradability or, increase in value or any of that kind of stuff that I think you find more of that conversation on the Ethereum network. How are you looking at that as far as like entry into Polygon? Are you not worried about, being able to actually make that connection? You do all this and then it ends up being similar or not as much engagement?
Well, it's just the risk that I think would have to take with running a project in Web3. I think one of the things that we learned in the conference is not to quit, but to pivot. It's a lot of pivoting. When you see a slowdown or you see a hurdle or something, sometimes it's just better to pivot versus like trashing a project or giving up completely or something. So, like I said, I think the engagement has been enormous so far. Like I said, the Twitter account has grown to 400 people overnight from maybe like 2 to 10 people or less. So, I mean, that's a pretty good sign as far as support. And we are also looking to see how we can approach the corporations for that support. And so maybe it's not so much of a flip thing as you would see on Ethereum. I think we want to get into a community that knows that it's not really about the flip, it's more about the supporting of the project and making those ripples in the community or in the world to have those changes happen. And I think Polygon might be a good place for that because the low gas fees. And I thought perhaps Ethereum might have been the best place because there's a lot of people there. But like I say, it's different philosophies, I think, on different blockchains. And I think maybe the philanthropy space is happening on Polygon and maybe near, like you mentioned as well. But I don't see much of that on the Ethereum space as much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, like I do recall, back in 2021, it was like almost every NFT project had some social impact angle to it, but it wasn't necessarily like that was the core purpose of the project, right? Except for like Afrodroids, for example, I would say was one where a big chunk of the purpose was kind of helping to build that school in Nigeria. And we've spoken to Owo, and he kind of speaks on the importance of the social impact as well. And to your point, in the Ethereum space, I think that a lot of the narrative is about, treating NFTs as investment vehicles, and not necessarily fundraising vehicles, not necessarily social impact vehicles, or just collectibles, or even really just to support an artist by buying their art on the blockchain. It does have a much more kind of, what's the future growth, value? What's the future potential of growth in this space? And I think it's unfortunate, and it is just the loudest voices in Ethereum. I think the quote unquote influencers like to be all about, kind of pumping bags and promoting certain PFPs that they think they have all the alpha on. So I think it's just the loudest voices. I do think there is still definitely an audience on Ethereum for social impact and for philanthropy, but definitely it's not the loudest voices. And unfortunately, it does seem to be the case that people like to go wherever the cool kids are at. That exists, and I wish you the best of luck on the Polygon space, man. It's really exciting to see you making that pivot, and be happy to help and support any way I can, and definitely let us know, and we'll let the community know. And what was the Twitter account for Secure Mount Ward? Is it just Secure MT Ward?
Mount Ward Alumni. So Mount, MOUNT, Ward Alumni.
Awesome. There we go. Everyone go follow that on Twitter right now. Mount Ward Alumni. All right, so looking at the Blockchain Futurist Conference, the biggest blockchain crypto conference in Canada, really was quite the event, I would say. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by a lot of the, like you said, kind of the positive reception to being about, the technological impacts and the social impacts, and really trying to, like you said, kind of send those ripples out through society and how we can make an actual big difference in the space. So I'd be curious to hear, what do you think was kind of the most impressive, or kind of what stuck with you most from those conversations and from the Blockchain Futurist Conference in general?
I think that, first of all, the space they chose in the city was awesome. It was a great, you really gave that Web3 vibes, the Lambo pulled up outside and all that kind of thing. So aesthetically, it was awesome. I think that there was a lot of great energy there, a lot of great networking. I was really impressed with the Cardano presentation. I liked the Shibarium presentation was awesome. Like, I went and checked out the metaverse already and see what's happening with that.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's little plots of land that you can buy and everything. And can you ask the question again? What I think I might have missed.
Yeah, just what resonated the most with you, or what were you kind of most impressed by?
And I was impressed by just the overall organization. Like, I thought that there was some great events there. They had like easy icebreakers, play some pool and everything like that. Again, it was great weather. They chose it was a great time of the year to have it. The location, like I said, was great. Food was great, drinks and everything. They had the whole, like, you come in, you've got the breakfast or like, some fruit and everything there, all the nice set up and everything. It was just very welcoming. They did well with the gallery. I liked how the gallery was set up. It was kind of put off to the side, and it was cool setup as well. Just to make sure you're always hydrated. Like, I love all the water they had all over the place and everything. It was just really well put together, and they had a lot of the groups there that you could engage with, a lot of the like video cams around. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of footage back that you can go back and check out online and everything like that. I was really impressed with some of the NFT groups that I was able to plug into here in Toronto.
No doubt.
NFTO was great. I gotta thank you again for the ticket, and I gotta shout out 40 Ounce Heroes as well for the panel. I was really enjoying being part of the panel, talk about ownership in Web3 and what that looks like, and copyright and everything of that nature for artists and musicians. So that was really cool. Met some great connects there, and look to do some great collaborations in the city here in Toronto. I do recommend coming out here to this conference to anyone who's watching now. It's definitely a must do on the list. Yeah.
Most definitely, yeah. It was those are kind of the things that stuck out to me too. Really, just bringing kind of Canadians together in many ways was kind of a nice thing to see, because I haven't really had the opportunity to meet a lot of Canadians that are in the Web3 and blockchain space, and just seeing so many of us kind of all together, really talking the same talk and really focusing on whether it was the art NFTs or whether it was really cultural impact, social impact. On day one when I was there, I went to 2 events and they were both great, right? So I started at the Virgo CX, kind of, they call it their VIP event. Shout out to the Canadian Blockchain Consortium as well as the major sponsor there. And they did a great job kind of pulling it together, having good educational talks. But it was definitely a little bit more, like you said, the kind of corporate class, you could say, of the Web3 blockchain space, a little bit of the compliance conversation as well, right? Looking at regulations and looking at kind of the way that society is or is not adopting blockchain technology. And so that was a great conversation, good way to kick off the day. But it was also, not really hype, it wasn't really like super exciting party necessarily. So, NFTO, shout out to Galen and the NFTO group. So that's a whole community kind of based in Toronto, of course, looking at promoting NFT creators and builders in Toronto. So they call it NFTO. And they also had their own event. It was a few blocks away from the Virgo CX event that I was at. And I go there and, there's hip hop, there's people kicking it outside. It's just a lot more of the kind of cultural, like kind of down grassroots artists, I would say, artists and creators vibe. We were playing some video games in the basement, like that's what I'm talking about. So I just thought it was an interesting way to kind of kick off the Blockchain Futurist event, was like this contrast, right? So there's the corporate space and there's the real cultural space, and they definitely overlap and mismatch a lot, and they both have very kind of important things to contribute, I think, to the overall Web3 space. And shout out to the Luna PR agency as well. I thought those ladies were really impressive. They talked really about like what, how public relations on the blockchain and in Web3 is a little bit different, and they have some really great advice for small podcasters like myself, to really grow and take things to that next level. So I really appreciated that as well. But to your point about the Charles Hoskinson speech, Mr. Cardano himself, he really did, as he often does, kind of hit on the power of the technology and the idea that, exponential growth seems to be the benefit of this technology more than anything else, right? And you could see it in AI as well. You can see it in a few other technological areas where we're not talking about like this small kind of gradual growth anymore. We're talking about real exponential impact, you know? And so for that reason, now is the time to be building. Now is the time to be focusing on the impact of the technology and actually getting involved, because we don't know when those exponential growth explosions are going to happen again, right? Like even whether it was Bitcoin, people who have been in Bitcoin since $10, $20 understand this exponential growth. You know, yes, it falls quite a bit and it can be very volatile, but ultimately on balance, it is exponential growth and it continues to kind of be that way. And I don't think that kind of market trajectory is going to be changing, especially looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few other kind of key technological blockchains that are really focusing on what they do. And frankly, I know a lot of people love to hate on Cardano. Their price of the coin maybe will never go up over $1. I don't know. But looking at what they're actually doing on the ground and what they actually see in these kind of micro ecosystems or micro economies really that are built on the Cardano blockchain, it's really impressive, I think. And you see like how this can make a difference in a small town in Kenya, for example, or a small town in Ethiopia. And that's what matters, I think, but not to everybody. You know, a lot of people just, they want to go to the moon, right? So how did you feel about that as far as like kind of, I think it was more about the technology, right? Whereas in past, you know, other events, I've seen a lot of talk about, you know, invest and, you know, go to the moon or make a bunch of money. But I think this conversation, this conference, probably because of the bear market too, but was very much focused on like the technological impact. Would you agree?
I agree, yeah. And looking at how to build strategic partnerships and collaborations, I think was an underlying theme I got from the Cardano speech anyways. Yeah,
we're working on that piece as well here. Any of our listeners out there interested in some strategic collaboration with Web3 Warriors, we're always down. And, you know, we continue to build out and connect. So many amazing connections. Like, I'm pretty sure I have podcast guests for the remainder of the year, if not into 2024 now, just from all the amazing builders and creators that I met there that were interested in jumping on. So we always appreciate that. And that's what we're really all about, is talking to the builders at the grassroots level, you know, not necessarily trying to find the biggest, most influential voices, but we're all obviously open to that as well. It's all about the ecosystem and promoting what's happening. So before we wind down here, I definitely want to, again, anybody listening in the chat, feel free to ask any questions. I did want to speak to the Shiba Inu big announcement. You know, Shibarium is now live, trying to launch a kind of DeFi revolution as well as a so-called metaverse revolution, you could say. They were saying that they're basically the first sovereign digital state. Now, I think that, you know, they're probably a little bit early to be making that claim, but as a goal, as a kind of initiative that they're aiming for, they definitely have a devoted community. They were very much showing up en masse at the Blockchain Futurist Conference. It was pretty impressive. And, you know, they've got so many pieces developed. They've got 3 different on-chain kind of governance tokens on top of the actual Shiba Inu coin itself. They've got a really pretty impressive 3D build that's been going on in the metaverse right now. So yeah, what did you think about that? I was pleasantly surprised. I did not think Shiba had this many projects going on.
Yeah, because I saw them the first day and I walked up. He's like, "Wait until you come in tomorrow." I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Wait until tomorrow. We got a big announcement." I was like, "Okay." So show up, and it was definitely that. It was. I was pretty impressed. I was even impressed just with the presentation that they did, just how they did the presentation, like using avatars and the speech through the avatars and stuff like that. I thought that was awesome. So that made me really, because I'm really heavy on the avatar, custom avatar 3D thing. So immediately the first thing I started looking at was the metaverse and what that looked like, and it looks pretty interesting. Huge plot. Looked like it's all divided up already. It looks like there's some things that may already be reserved or restricted or something. There are some things open, but I couldn't see a price on anything yet. So nothing's quite open yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how decentralized will it really be, you know? But it seems like they're aiming for full decentralization. And I noticed they have a kind of form online here. I just kind of poking around their website at shibmv.com, which is Shib Metaverse, I assume. And they got a form. So be part of the Shib Metaverse. You fill it out for partnership opportunities. So that might be where you want to check out their
absolutely.
Kush, you know, get that philanthropy angle in there. So, we're selling some keys on the SHIB metaverse and support some kids in Jamaica, Shout out John, what's up? Thanks for dropping in, man. Appreciate you. He was also at the Blockchain Futurist Conference. Shout out, doing the live stream tings. But yeah, man, I was like, I have a small bag of SHIB, full disclosure, but I also just thought it was cool as a meme, as a meme coin early on. And I did hear that there's just a lot of dev work happening in the space. And to me, like, that's one piece that I always look at for any blockchain, really. If the difference between shitcoin, as some call it, and a real kind of actual use case and utility is the community. Really, that's the main difference. What is being developed on the blockchain, what are they aiming to do, and what is actually being done right now, most importantly, because everyone can just say they're doing XYZ and make a real great white paper that looks so engaging and get everybody to FOMO in. That's one piece, but actually seeing the devs on the ground, and now having visited at the Blockchain Futurist Conference and spoke directly to, I forget the name of the other ones, Shibacals, right? I think they were called. They're called Shibacals. They were like decals that were 3D printed, but you actually get a digital asset version too. So it's a phygital platform, and it's on Shiba Inu, and it's just devoted to basically promoting the Shiba ecosystem. But it's a very cool phygital project that I haven't seen done, frankly, anywhere else, like on a broad scale. Like, I've seen individual NFT projects, come out with a physical item that you can get if you own the NFT, and that's cool. But to actually say, like, everything in the Shiba ecosystem, they want to be able to, like, help people make phygital versions of those assets, is a pretty cool kind of initiative that I haven't really seen on any other blockchains, and to the extent that they had it there. And they had a lot of phygital pieces there for display that looked really cool too. So yeah, just, it's impressive.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be taking a little bit more concern around my little SHIB bag that I do have. So yeah,
I'm taking a closer look at it for sure. And you said, I want to get into this metaverse and actually walk around and see, and then I'll probably be, if it is as good as it looks in their trailers. Like you said, they showed up on avatars for the big announcement. It was 3D. Like, I would say it wasn't quite Grand Theft Auto style graphics, but it was close. Like, it was pretty close. It was good immersion. Definitely not blocky. Definitely not voxel style. A little bit more in the Unreal Engine kind of lane, I would say. Shout out John, saying we're heavyweights in the metaverse game. We're just out here plugging away, just trying, building, seeing where things go. So when you look at the IRL meetups, right, how important do you think it is? Like you and I, we had talked many times on Clubhouse and other spaces. We've obviously had this kind of conversation on the podcast earlier, but we were able to meet in person and, make real connections and help each other out when it comes to promoting and talking to other people at the conference. So how important are these kind of IRL events, do you think, for the Web3 space?
They're critical. I think they're important for sure. I mean, I've been on the app with you for 2 years, and I finally get to meet. So yeah, it's definitely the thing to do. Actually make a physical connection with people that you've been speaking with for a while, and you just we organically kind of just started kind of helping each other. You're kind of showing me, I'm going to pitch like this, and you're like, oh, and you're like, I like to get them on Web3. It's like, oh, sure, yeah, make that introduction. Like, so it's just things just organically kind of start working nicely, and I definitely recommend this conference to people. Put the Toronto on your list of ones to touch down at, and yeah.
And how about that? Just the fact that there were so many builders in Toronto. Like, I think about where I'm at, Winnipeg, Manitoba. If we try to do something like that, we'd be looking at like 90% foreign people from outside of the province coming to talk about it. We don't have enough people, like, at least that I'm aware of so far, really building and focusing on the technology to hold these kind of conversations. But I mean, granted, Ethereum's from Toronto, right? And there's definitely no shortage of devs and like people that really see the vision and mission of Ethereum specifically. There was ETH Toronto there, ETH Women, based in Toronto. So they definitely have a big Ethereum footprint there, right? And maybe that is a big part of why. So yeah, you don't want to sleep on Toronto if you're active in this Web3 blockchain space. And a lot of, leaders from different blockchain entities were there, connecting and talking about their projects. And so you get a real direct line, I think, to leadership teams, whereas when you're trying to email them, you're trying to call them, it's all, maybe you'll get something, maybe you won't. But when you're talking direct to like their CEO or one of their VPs or whatever the case may be, it's like a whole different ballgame, right? And they'll remember you because you actually spoke to them directly. So that's what I found out of it. And like when I look at the importance of actually attending these things, yeah, nothing beats that. Nothing beats that actual face-to-face connection and learning about these projects directly,
Yep. And just building a relationship with someone as well. Just hanging out, talking, just shooting the breeze, just building a friendship with people. I mean, that's people like to work with who they like, right? So
100%.
That's also key. Yeah.
100%. So off the top, I was talking about one piece that I would like to see more of at all the different events that I get to, really the Web3 events, is a exclusive focus on culture and social impact, So how do you think, if there was anything to kind of improve or evolve or iterate for next year, how do you think we could, or they should, really promote this cultural social impact side of things more?
Well, I think they could have more, maybe a panel discussion focused on that with key players who are in that space in the area, and bring some more awareness to that. I know we met Quentin and Jasmine, who are both kind of in that space, and luckily I got to speak with them through 40-ounce Heroes. But maybe some more spotlight on peak creators like that and what they're doing in that space, and for cultural causes and philanthropy causes, building education and building bridges between cultures and things of that nature. I think that would be a good place.
And it does seem to kind of come down to those satellite events a lot, right? When it comes to really wanting to connect with the culture and really kind of like get under the hood of certain projects and speak to the social impact side of things. I feel like these satellite events give people a little bit more space to speak and to really get into, personal connections, like you said, wanting to actually connect with people and you like. I'm hoping they just really, just like section off a whole corner of the conference, for people making, a social impact. And it doesn't have to be just exclusively that, right? They can have broader projects, but they just happen to also have this piece of their project that, is helping XYZ initiative, whether it's in Canada or somewhere internationally, globally. I would like to see a little bit more of that. So we'll keep saying it. And, there were some good talks around, underrepresented people in Web3, and definitely a lot of talk about having more women in leadership and points of, in blockchain teams, and really just understanding that there are a lot of women developers and, making sure that they have space. So that was a good conversations for sure. So it wasn't like the cultural conversation was completely lost. There was some of it. But yeah, I think that we can just make it so integral to Web3, right? That, making a social impact should be a no-brainer. And it just helps people, I don't even like to use the term mass adoption, quote unquote, but it definitely helps people who are not at all looking at Web3 to look at Web3 if they got, an iPad at their school because of a Web3 project that, supported them. Or in the case of Afro Droids, the whole school was built because of an NFT project or Web3 project, right? So yeah, that's how I think you get more adoption for sure, and how things grow in the right direction and in the right way. So do you think that Canada is kind of in a position to really be a leader in this Web3 blockchain space based on kind of what you saw there? Yeah,
after what I saw on the weekend, I definitely think what I learned about the amount of development that's happening in Canada or in Toronto, definitely think that we're in a leadership space for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm hella impressed, honestly, because I look at like the regulatory side of things, and government's never perfect, all right? It doesn't matter who's in power. And I think that even looking at the regulatory piece of it, frankly, all parties have certain people that like crypto and certain people that are a little more skeptical maybe. And so it seems to me, at least from what I've read of, certain committees and things that are working their way through our parliament, that the importance of a sovereign wallet, for example, is being highlighted. The importance of blockchain as kind of an innovative solution to A, global finance, B, the creator economy, having more authenticity behind, the people that are actually creating and actually getting a fairer kind of proportion of their revenue when they sell things, all these kind of things. From what I've read, the Canadian government in large, you know, seems to understand how this helps the economy and seems to be wanting it to at least grow. You know, of course, they have their FinTrack and AML concerns, anti-money laundering and all of that, which frankly all banks have, of course, as well. And these things happen across legal firms, across banks, and across the blockchain, and they need to be kind of understood and the security pieces put in place to be kind of prepared for that. So with that in mind, I think we have a good eye towards, you know, what crypto can actually do for creators and for your average person out there. It's not just about investments and not just about, you know, shady international movement of money off the books. You know, on the contrary, it's actually more on the books than a lot of the kind of hidden stuff that happens in banks or in law firms, you know. So yeah, I think Canada is getting really well positioned right now to kind of lead the conversation. And we're a pro-innovation country, I think. At least I like to think we are. So no matter who's in charge, I'm confident that we will continue to move in the right direction, I hope. And John is saying we can look forward to some of the panel videos coming out soon. Shout out to John hooking up the live stream and the post edits on the videos. I'm sure he's hella busy right now still, but it was quite the week, man. And shout out to you, man. It's really amazing that you're able to do that. And yeah, I'm excited. So Kush, what do you have around the corner? You know, as we're winding down here, I'd love to hear, you know, anything that our audience can look forward to. I believe you have a little bit of music projects going on as well. So yeah. What's new in Web3 and what can we look forward to around the corner?
Yeah, on the music front and art front, just dropped some artwork on the blockchain a couple of weeks ago on OpenSea, Visions of Planet Indigo. I'll be doing some additions to that collection with some more music and some more art pieces in this.
Sorry, what was the title again?
Visions of Planet Indigo.
Visions of Planet Indigo. All right, cool. Tell us about it.
So I said Visions from Planet Indigo.
Oh, from Planet Indigo. Gotcha.
Visions from Planet Indigo, and it's on OpenSea. There's a 3D piece there that you can use. I'm trying to go more into the 3D, so you can the digital twinning aspect of things. So you'll be seeing some more of that from me in the future, looking at how I can do more digital twinning and look how to get physical pieces in IRL that have the provenance connected to the blockchain and being able to move that with the physical piece. So looking at things like that.
Super cool. So what about the phygital conversation do you find enticing, especially from a music perspective, right? I mean, music's gone so anti-physical for so long, unless you're one of those, you know, hardcores collecting the vinyls and things like that. Of course, there is still the collector base for some physical items, but in general, it's become a very digital medium. So what's kind of inspiring you to take that phygital approach?
Yeah, just in the way of merch.
Merch, yeah.
Because with music, I'm thinking fashion and merch, and being able to do the digital twinning on that. So if you were to buy a piece of merch or something, maybe you'd have a digital twin on your avatar or something and like that.
Oh, that is super cool. So you buy the shirt at like a show or something that you're doing, and then you actually get like a little QR code that you can scan and claim your digital twin?
Yeah, something like
that's
that.
Nice, man.
Yeah. So because with Spatial now, they have all the... they have a custom avatar deal coming. Well, it's not deal coming, it's here. It's already happening. And they also have the ecosystem that they built over there as well. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility to be able to sell pieces that people could use on their actual avatar. So obviously clothing is the first thing that I'm thinking about, and doing digital merch in that sense around music, like
That's
you
awesome.
would as an artist in IRL. Yeah.
And do you see it going the other way as well, where like they purchase the metaverse avatar clothing, but you allow them to claim a physical piece as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's interesting. You know, it's like, phygital is not a brand new concept at this point, but hearing it in that kind of music merchandise lane, I haven't seen that yet. And I think like, because you do shows, right? And you have DJ shows and things like that. So it could get to a place where like anytime you do a DJ show, no matter what the venue, you just put up a little table, you have a few of the physical shirts, but you mentioned, you know, you get a digital twin for your avatar when you buy one of these, just like extra perk. Oh man, that's the future right there. That's really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I think that's where things will be going for a lot of the music space in the near future. It's already happening already with a lot of the big organizations like Nike and Puma coming in with that. So
yeah,
it's only a matter of time.
No doubt. So Visions from Planet Indigo, we got to check that out for sure. And looking at music NFTs and the conversation around music and Web3 more broadly, maybe before we wrap this up, is there any site that's like really resonating with you? Like there's sound.xyz. I know Audius actually had a table there at the Blockchain Futurist Conference. They seem to be adapting a little bit, trying to get out of like just going to full kind of Spotify style to be more about licensing and certain type of things, right? How are you finding the Web3 music space, and is there any one that's like really impressive to you that you think you'd be down to like kind of build a catalog on?
Well, right now Eminate's looking kind of interesting as the one to kind of to start looking at building there. But I just got to see, as you get further into the music, you get other people that are kind of connected to your initiatives as well. So you got to see how comfortable they are as getting involved in Web3, like if you working with a publisher or any of that kind of thing. So, but just being independent, I think I'm going to start looking at Emanate. I've been putting music on Tezos, so Object, and then this one I put on Ethereum, which is this current project.
No doubt.
But I think going forward, Emanate is looking like a pretty interesting place to put music in.
What's your project on Tezos called?
Oh, some different. It's just single songs. So if you just look up, you just look up my profiles. I am Nubio on Object, then you'll see some of the collection.
I am Nubio. All right.
I am.
So you don't claim that Kush Nubia name on all these platforms, hey? Your I am Nubio is your handle.
Yeah, I am Nubio is my handle. I've been using it. I use it on all my. I kind of use it on all my social media, and just put Kush Nubia as the name on there.
No doubt. Cool, man. Yeah. Very impressive. And so Emanate's the one you're kind of most impressed by so far, but open to see other ones. And another thing too, like we've heard from Low Sleazy and Kane Mayfield, shout out to them. They always talk about, making sure you kind of spread yourself out and don't necessarily feel like you only have one or two options, or, get like religious about a specific platform and like, I'm only going to do music here. And especially in the music space, I think in the art space, they say copy minting and having the same art on different blockchains is a little, whatever, maybe a little taboo. But in music, no one's going to complain or no one's going to criticize anyone for putting their music on pretty much everywhere that they can, right? And to monetize that way. What do you think about that? Or do you think that should be?
I never actually thought about that. I actually thought that it'd be a one-on-one on a chain, and if you took the piece of music and put it on another chain, it'd be copy minting. But if that's something that's open in the music community, then
I've been seeing it. Maybe you put a little bit of different art, right? Because you usually almost always need some kind of visual. So maybe you switch up the art a little bit depending on the blockchain. But definitely, I would not limit yourself as far as the tracks for different blockchains for sure. I've been seeing a lot of people kind of putting the tracks on all the different blockchains. So totally something to think about. Don't limit yourself, man. That's good stuff. Well, I'm glad we can put that education out there for anyone else listening, looking at the music space. John was saying your idea about the merch is sick idea for sure. And also wishing we had more time to chill, but he was a busy guy. We went and dropped by once or twice, right? Saw him doing his live stream thing. Shout out to John, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for dropping in. Do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up here, Kush? Appreciate you jumping on.
Just make sure to put Toronto, the Futurists, on your list.
That's it. Get out here. I'm going to be regular now. NFT NYC and Blockchain Futurist Conference. Those are mandatory for me as far as I'm concerned year to year, because it's like the whole gang comes out for NFT NYC, which is amazing. We've got a lot of friends on the American stateside through the Clubhouse community and through the different Web3 communities as well. But here, having that Canadian footprint and really, again, the birthplace of Ethereum. Charles Hoskinson was speaking, who's definitely a leader, one of the creators of Ethereum as well as the creator of Cardano. So that was definitely an amazing voice to be able to hear directly from. So definitely don't sleep on Toronto. Don't sleep on the Blockchain Futurist Conference. Appreciate you so much, Kush. It's been amazing. All right. Well, until next time, I'll catch you all in the metaverse, and we'll be continuing to build and push philanthropy and all these things that are possible in Web3 and blockchain technology. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.